Hello, happy Thursday. Oh my goodness, the week flew by so fast. I want to talk to you today about networking because it is the number one reason that executives, leaders, senior individual contributors, 10 to 20 plus years of experience share with me is the blocker that keeps them from landing roles that they absolutely love, roles that maybe not everyone knows about, or even just being part of a circle that knows them very well, knows their value, where they don't have to be salesy and pitch themselves and apply to a ton of roles, or even be part of a network that opens doors to opportunities, whether it's speaking opportunities, whether it's business opportunities. So, networking is a big thing. A lot of you know this, but my question to you is if you know networking is so important, why aren't you doing it? And maybe you are doing it. Maybe you are networking, but you're not very successful. So, why is networking important? You know it's important because you want to enter circles of people who are farther along than where you are. That's the biggest incentive that I hear people share with me when it comes to networking. Now, the problem is when you want to be surrounded by people who are ahead of you or at your level, but they don't perceive you as one of them. And that tends to make it awkward for folks, right? Because now you feel you have to prove yourself, or you have to sell yourself, or you feel that you have to be inauthentic. And that it shouldn't be the case. The reason it is tough for a lot of people to network is for several reasons. One of them is when you're networking, you might have this feeling that people are not perceiving you the way that you want them to perceive you. And putting yourself out there feels like you're getting rejected. Now, let's talk about how you can overcome that. And I'm going to tell you a little story in terms of how I overcame that. Little known fact is there was a time when I didn't have 43,000 followers and I was invisible. I was in the corporate world for more than 15 years and I was very frustrated with not being able to push through the glass ceiling because I kept hearing the same story over and over and over again. You're a hard worker, you're great at execution, but you are not as strategic. And from a relational perspective, we don't feel comfortable putting you in front of people. And then I would see people who are not working as hard as I'm working getting promoted. And it just bothered me. Long story short, at some point, I just quit over text. I didn't do it out of a whim. It was a buildup of a lot of frustration. And I found myself in a position where I was building a business and I had no one. I mean, technically, I had less than 500 connections. A lot of my connections were from the corporate world who saw the version of me that was junior. So it didn't feel useful for me. Like my existing network wasn't useful because it wasn't the network that I wanted to be part of that would get me to where I want to be. They did not have the opportunities that I was interested in, and their perception of me was not the perception that I wanted people to see me as. So, how did I break through that? I built a personal brand. Now, a lot of you, when you think of personal brands, you're hearing all these gurus and people on LinkedIn portray a personal brand as a fancy banner, as you posting clickbaity posts that no one is going to read. That is not what a personal brand is. Your personal brand is your reputation. It's not just your reputation online. It's your reputation online and offline. How anyone could see you, whether they are a warm connection or not, right? Because there is the perception of how people who don't know you could be different than the perception of people who know you very well. But sometimes, you know what? Even people who have known you all your life may actually have the wrong perception of who you are. So let us unpack, how can we build an authority brand that gets you in the right networking circles so that it opens doors to opportunities you're actually interested in, not what your network thinks is useful for you, and also for you to be able to create opportunities and not be tied to your network. And the reason I'm sharing this today, I've been getting a lot of, consultation calls where people share this with me. B, this is something that I help my clients break through. I have clients who, found roles outside of their network, many, many, many of my clients. But I'm going to also share with you my story in 2024. So in 2024, I will say 4 years into my business, I felt like I was at a plateau. I was getting a lot of amazing clients. I was doing very well. I was making the revenue I wanted to make. But from a growth perspective, I felt that I was at a plateau and I wanted bigger things. So, what happened was I got an opportunity as a fractional executive working with a CEO of a consultancy. How I got that opportunity was not through applying for jobs. It wasn't because I knew anyone at his organization. It wasn't because I knew him. It was because of the perception that I created on the outside of what I'm capable of and what I bring to the table. So, let me share with you what I mean by that. Let me just do a screen share because I created a cool diagram that will make everything clear. Okay, so here is my cool diagram. And let me just put the screen side by side so that I can see what I'm sharing. This is a Venn diagram, and this is a framework that I created that describes how to build an authority brand that gets you in the right networking circles. It is based on 3 components. Sometimes people hit one component and not the others, and that's why they're not successful at attracting the right opportunities at the right level. And this isn't just tied, again, it's not just tied to careers. So maybe you are in this position where you're a director and you want to land a VP role, or maybe you're a VP and you want to land a C-level role, or maybe you've been an senior individual contributor for many years, but no one is really giving you a chance to move up. Or maybe you are already at the right level, but you're stuck at an organization that's not innovative. And so the belief is the only way I'm going to get there is if I leverage my existing network. But what if your existing network is not the right network? What do you do? Right? So these are the 3 components that you need in order to make that happen. So the first thing is what I call clarity. You need to be clear on what your talent is. And a lot of us, because we've done so much in our career, we have hidden talents that we are not quite aware of. Because when you're inside the jar, it's hard to read the label. The second thing is there needs to be clarity in terms of why you do what you do, your vision. As a leader, you might have heard this so many times. Your teams will say, well, I'm not clear on what your vision is. So there's the ability to know what it is, and then there's the ability to communicate it very clearly. So I'll tell you what my why is in terms of why I do what I do, and you'll be able to see that in my story. If you go on my website and read my origin story, you'll understand my why. And my why I do what I do is because when I was in the corporate world, I felt disempowered. I felt helpless. I felt like my career was in the hands of organizations. And I've always, believed that people should feel empowered to drive their own career rather than be at the mercy of organizations, be at the mercy of, whatever opportunity comes your way, be at the mercy of your organization is not getting you promoted, be at the mercy of whoever you're getting along with at the organization, be at the mercy of external environments like the economy. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what happens externally. We have to control what we're able to control. So that's my big why, right? So you need to be clear on your big why. And a lot of people, a lot of executives, a lot of leaders, a lot of professionals that I work with, they think they're clear on their why. But then when we unpack their entire career history, this is something that I do with my clients. I have a career archetype assessment. We go through the whole exercise holistically, and we uncover things that they have not thought of and forgotten, things that they've done in their childhood. We look at their upbringing and we start connecting the dots. And then they get clear on their why. You have to be clear on your why, because if you don't, then there's no direction, there's no motivation. If you don't have a North Star, then you're not going to be motivated to pursue your goals, right? This is why whenever you are, let's say, even working with a doctor or working with a health practitioner, they're always going to remind you of your why. Why is it important for you to take care of your health, right? Why is it important for you to climb that mountain? So getting clear on your why in order to get that motivation. And then who do you want to help? So some of my clients, they want to help mission-driven organizations. I had a client who was a former doctor, and it was very important for her, even though she was breaking into tech, that she remains in the health space, because she has seen firsthand the impact of lack of automation in the health space that caused patients not to get the treatment that they deserve fast enough. Okay, so being clear on your hidden talent, being clear on your why, being clear on who you want to help. From a networking perspective, that is important, because guess what? When you're clear on your why, you're going to start attracting like-minded people who are like you. And at the end of the day, we got to get out of this whole segregation of our career and who we actually are. That's what I call almost like a identity crisis, where some of my clients feel that they have to be someone else at work and they have to be someone else, in their personal life. And that's what causes a lot of the lack of fulfillment. So being clear on that automatically will make you more aware and automatically will entice you to communicate the right things, and you will start attracting the right people. And that actually is exactly what happened with me. The CEO who approached me to work with him was reading a lot of my content and seeing that we have that value alignment. We had that alignment on the why. We had these concepts in terms of how A players don't come from having, the perfect life and the perfect careers, but they are the ones who come from adversity. So getting clear on your why, I hope you get the point. That's something that people neglect, and they don't do the inner work to figure it out. The second thing that I wanted to say, credibility. So sometimes people are clear on their why. They're clear on why they do what they do, who they want to help, their hidden talent, but they don't show or portray that credibility. And that happens a lot to people who are analytical. Professionals who are analytical, leaders who are analytical, who are heads down, execute, strategize. They don't take the time to learn how to sell themselves. There are two folds that will help with that. One, you obviously need to be clear on the problems that you solve for your target audience. As a leader, we got to just move away from from acting as a professional. You're at a point where you're an entrepreneur in your organization. So you need to have a deep understanding of who your organization's clients are and what their deeper level problems are. I call them secret level problems too. They're the types of problems that your users, your customers, will only share after 5 drinks. Not that I'm promoting alcoholism here, but you get the point. Because there are the surface level problems where clients say where clients think they need certain things, but then there are the secret level problems that are a lot deeper. The other thing that you need to be clear is, yes, you need to talk about, you need to be clear on what your customer problems are that you're able to solve as a professional, but you need to make yourself as a solution. You need to position yourself as a solution. So what differentiates you is when you have a unique approach or framework. This is ironic because guess what? I just systemized my approach and framework, and I'm sharing with you how I help people build authority, right? So you need to be able to present your ideas using frameworks and systems, because at this level, as an executive, you need to be seen as a thought leader. And when people see that, then of course you're going to be invited to enter new circles. Recruiters are going to start reaching out to you because they see you as a thought leader and not someone who's a copycat, who's regurgitating other people's ideas or just plopping things from Chat GPT. And when you present your ideas, we got to bring in more context. We got to present the scale of what you've done, the scope of what you've done, and not just from an execution perspective, but how you work with people and teams as a leader. Because that's another mistake that I see with executives when I look at their resumes, when I look at their LinkedIn, when I listen to the narrative that they share with me, they leave out the part of how they work with teams and how they delegate to make things happen. Thursday, this is why I'm drinking my coffee. So credibility, very important. The third component, and again, I see this with a lot of the super introverted analytical folks, this piece tends to be missing, and it is what I call your professional charisma. What do we mean by professional charisma? You coming across as non-intimidating. And this goes to every area of your life. Obviously, if you appear intimidating, you're closed off, your body language is not inviting, then it makes it very hard for people to want to network with you and have conversations. At the same time, on LinkedIn, if you have a photo that shows you're maybe angry, or you're not making eye contact, or you're not portraying that executive presence, then the likelihood of a recruiter clicking on your profile and reading more is slim. A lot of people get confused about executive presence. They think that you need to have that radio voice. They think that you have to speak in a monotone voice. They think that you need to show lack of emotion. I'm just thinking right now in my head, political leaders who barely show any emotion. That's not the case. Professional charisma is about being comfortable in your skin and having that emotional resonance and empathy, being able to understand the nuances of how your audience feels. And it's not just about what you say, it's also how you make people feel at the end of the day when you're speaking, right? Because if people don't emotionally connect with you, they're not going to want to hear anything you say as a leader. So again, these things are not just important to land a role, but it's also important to help you influence in your organization, to get people to actually listen to you and to engage them, right? So authenticity by being able to share your story, emotional resonance, and then how do we create the ability for people to reciprocate with you? How do we do that? Obviously by giving value, right? Sometimes people expect that others will have their back when they network, when they haven't spoken to them in ages. When was the last time you reached out to your contacts and had a coffee with them with no expectation? Why does that always need to happen when we're looking for jobs? Are you building relationships or are you simply adding people to your network? Are you able to have conversations that have a balance of you selling yourself, but also position you as a trusted advisor and, you know, something that I talked about with one of my clients is having what I call a consultative approach, even in informational interviews. When you are asking people questions and understanding the problems that they're trying to solve at organizations and providing suggestions based on your experiences, that's what I call coming in with a doctor frame. So, those are the three components. I want to tell you what happens when one of these components is missing. So, when you are clear on your purpose, why you do what you do, what you want, and you're portraying that professional charisma, you're really good at it, you share your story, you're a great storyteller, you engage people at an emotional level, you're authentic, you know, you have no problems connecting with people. But you're not able to portray your ideas using frameworks, you're not very clear or you're not very nuanced in the way that you communicate problems, you don't know how to communicate your value proposition, or you may not know what it is because you feel like a jack of all trades, that credibility is missing. And so people see you as a friend. They don't take you seriously and they don't see you providing value professionally, right? And that does not get us roles. That does not get us the professional opportunities that we want. That gets us people who like us, but it doesn't get us people who see professional opportunities or collaborations. Now, what happens when we're clear on our purpose? We have a unique approach. We're very analytical. We have a deep understanding of our audience problems, but we are missing that professional charisma. We're not vulnerable enough. We're not sharing our story. We're not taking interest at a personal level. And we are not relatable. What that does is it makes us come across as intimidating. This is actually the number one reason why a lot of my leaders who are in this bucket don't get past the first interview with a recruiter because they don't connect with you. They feel intimidated. More information doesn't necessarily convince someone or influence them, right? Now, the third bucket that you might be in is you are a master at connecting with people and you are very clear on the problems of your audience. But you're at a crossroads where you want to enter a new circle. You've outgrown your current circle. You're also constantly getting opportunities for roles that you no longer want, that are too stagnant for you, and you want to move up. And so usually this needs work because you need to revisit what you want. You need to be clear on where you want to be, and you need to build a brand aligned with your future, not where you currently are. Okay, so I hope that this has been helpful. If you are interested in having a conversation, maybe even you want me to help you diagnose what's missing for you, especially if you are at the director level or VP level, you can book a free career diagnosis. So I will show you how you can do that. You can go on my website, nadabohendi.com. Let us share again. And then on my website, there is an ability to book a free career diagnosis. So this is where you click and you can pick a time that works for you. The more information you share with me around your goals and what's standing in your way, the better I can diagnose. And I have limited spots when it comes to the career diagnosis. I try to limit them to 4 a week because I have clients that I need to take care of. So jump on that opportunity if you are at a point where you truly need help. Because let's be honest, as a leader, your effectiveness comes from not doing everything yourself. Your effectiveness comes by collaborating with others, by delegating. The reason a lot of leaders don't go after their goals is because they don't have the structure and system and also the motivation. And when you are working with someone who provides you a motivating environment to pursue your goals and systemizes things for you, so they are not overwhelming, you have a better chance at achieving your goal. I have clients too who may not be ready to execute on their goals. So just because you book a call with me or you end up working with me doesn't mean we execute, especially if you're not ready. But if you don't have a vision or a strategy or a plan, then no matter when it's possible for you to execute, you're not going to be able to execute it effectively. You need time to strategize before you execute, right? That's what you do in organizations. And you got to treat your career the same way. All right. I hope you have a wonderful day. Please, let me know if this has been useful. It's hard for me to know when people don't provide feedback. So I would appreciate it if you do. Give me a like, comment. Yeah, I wish you the best of luck. Don't give up on your goals because life is too short. All right, friends. Have a wonderful rest of your week.